Ever walk into like a bustling restaurant, and kind of wonder, how do they pull this off? I mean, obviously, the food has got to be delicious, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like behind the scenes, there's got to be something else. It's the data, right? Like the data's got to be the secret ingredient. Today, we're diving into that. We're talking about restaurant KPIs.
You hit it right on the nose. It really is more than just a passion for food or a knack for service. Someone could be the most talented chef out there, but without keeping an eye on those KPIs, it's like they're running their business in the dark.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. So you brought us an article. It's from the Menuviel blog. What are the important restaurant KPIs and metrics? Let's dig in.
Sounds good.
And what better place to start than with the heart of any business, the money. It's like, got to make sure you've got enough dough, literally, before you even start baking. Right?
Exactly. And the article jumps right into it with a term that you might not see on your everyday balance sheet, RevPASH.
RevPAH.
Yeah, it stands for Revenue Per Available Seat Hour.
Okay.
So think of your restaurant like it's this prime piece of real estate.
Yeah.
Every single empty seat is a missed opportunity.
Okay.
Like a little for rent sign, just waiting for someone to flip it over.
I like that. So RevPSH, it's all about maximizing what you're making from each seat every hour.
You got, especially during those like prime time, rush hour, dinner rush, whatever it might be, those peak dining times.
Right.
Now, the article also does a nice job of breaking down these two concepts that I find people often get tripped up on.
Okay.
Gross profit margin versus net profit margin. And you've really got to understand both to get the full picture of how healthy your restaurant is financially.
Okay, so break it down for me. What's the difference?
All right, so let's imagine you're selling these amazing slices of cake.
Okay.
Your gross profit margin is like saying, okay, how much money did I make from these slices of cake alone after you take out the cost of all the ingredients?
Right.
Pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
But then you have this thing called net profit margin, which is like the bigger picture.
So it's not just about the cake. It's about like the whole bakery.
You got it.
Yeah.
Net profit margin, it considers everything. We're talking not just the ingredients, your rent, your utilities, staff salaries, all those hidden costs that you don't always think about, but can really sneak up on you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real measure of, are you actually turning a profit at the end of the day?
Wow, so you could think you're killing it, but really you're only getting like half the answers right on the quiz.
That's a great way to put it. You could be selling out of that amazing cake every day,
Mm-hmm.
but if all your other costs are outrageous, your profit margin could be, well, non-existent.
Yeah, a real aha moment for anyone in the restaurant biz, I think. But let's shift gears a little bit here. We've got the financials down. We know how to track the money. But what about the actual operations? Like, how do we even know if things are running smoothly behind the scenes? What tells us that? It's like, gotta have all the gears turning right.
Yeah.
We're talking about those operational KPIs, what keeps a restaurant running like a well-oiled machine. And the article mentions this one. It's all about finding the right rhythm, table turnover rate.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so easy to think like, okay, the faster I can get people in and out of these seats, the more customers I can serve, the more money I'm going to make. But, it's not quite as simple as that. Put yourself in the diner's shoes for a second,
Yeah.
Like you go to a restaurant, you don't want to feel rushed through your meal.
Nobody wants to be rushed out the door when they're still working on dessert.
Exactly. It's all about balance. A low table turnover rate, yeah, it could mean that maybe people are lingering a little longer than you'd like, which, yeah, could impact your bottom line. But then a high turnover rate where you're practically, showing people the door the second they take their last bite, that could really hurt the whole vibe of the whole experience.
So how do you find that sweet spot? Is it like, I don't know, strategically placed candles that burn down faster? Okay, maybe not, but you get the idea.
Right. You want those subtle little things. You bring up a good point, though. It is often those small details. But as far as the data goes, the article talks about like looking at your peak hours, your average meal duration, even just the way your tables are laid out.
Right.
Can help optimize the flow.
Wow, makes you think about those restaurant floor plans a little differently, huh?
Yeah.
So let's switch to another operational KPI that I thought was interesting, inventory turnover rate. And this one feels less about the customer experience and more about what's happening, behind the scenes in the kitchen.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting, I think. Imagine you're a chef, right?
Yeah.
You walk into your walk-in refrigerator, and it looks like a produce graveyard. Wilted lettuce, tomatoes past their prime. It doesn't really inspire, like, culinary genius, does it?
No, it's like that feeling when you open the fridge and you realize your milk expired like a week ago, and you're like, oh no, things are going downhill from here.
That's exactly it. A low inventory turnover rate, it can mean you've got poor inventory management. There's probably going to be a lot of waste, and your dishes might not be as fresh as they could be.
So if you've got a high inventory turnover rate, that means what? You're working with the freshest ingredients, less waste, which ultimately helps your budget too.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how these operational KPIs, they can have a direct impact on, not just the customer experience, but the business side of things too. And speaking of keeping customers happy,
Let's talk about the most important part of the restaurant industry, the diners. What are the customer satisfaction KPIs, those metrics that tell us if people actually enjoy eating there?
this is where it gets personal. The article, it highlights one metric in particular. It's like the gold standard for measuring customer loyalty, the Net Promoter Score, or NPS.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely heard of NPS, but I'll be honest, I always mix it up with other customer satisfaction surveys. What is it exactly?
All right, so picture this. You ask your customers just one quota. On a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this restaurant to, say, a friend or a coworker? That's it. That's your NPS. It's not just about getting a good review. It's about finding those people who will, rave about your restaurant.
Okay, so they become like walking, talking advertisements.
Exactly. They're telling everyone they know, their friends, their family. Maybe they're leaving you glowing reviews online. And especially these days, the article really emphasizes how crucial online reviews are.
It's like word of mouth, but amplified. One awesome review on Yelp, and you've got a line out the door. But a bad one, man, that can really hurt.
Yeah, the article really stresses that sites like Yelp, TripAdvisor, even just social media in general, it's completely changed the game. A restaurant's online reputation can make them or break them.
You've got to be on top of it. It's like making sure your restaurant's front door is clean and inviting so people want to come inside.
I like that, yeah. So you've wowed the customers, they're happy. Now, how do you make sure they come back for more? Well, that's where those marketing KPIs come into play.
Okay, let's talk strategy. It's not enough to just cook amazing food. You've got to get people in the door. What are those marketing metrics that really matter?
One of the big ones the article mentions is customer acquisition cost, or CAC. It's all about figuring out how much money you're actually spending to bring in each new diner.
Because you could be spending a ton of money on some fancy marketing campaign, but if it's not actually getting new customers in the door, it's a waste, right?
Totally. Let's say you invest in this big, flashy billboard in a prime location. Looks great, but it only brings in 5 new customers. CAC helps you figure out, okay, is this really worth it? Are my marketing efforts actually paying off?
It's about using your marketing budget strategically, making it work as hard as your kitchen staff.
Exactly. And that actually leads into another really important KPI the article talks about, return on marketing investment, or ROMI.
So CAC is the cost, and ROMI is like what you get back for that investment.
You got it. Yeah. It's analyzing, okay, which of my marketing activities are actually bringing in the biggest return? Are my social media ads killing it? Or is it my loyalty program that's keeping people coming back for more? Data-driven decisions all the way, right? Figure out what works and just do more of that.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about the numbers, the customers, but what about the heart and soul of any restaurant?
The people.
The employees. The article, it doesn't shy away from this key KPI that, honestly, I think sometimes gets forgotten. Employee turnover rate.
That's huge, right? If you've got staff coming and going all the time, that can't be good for morale, for keeping things consistent for the customers. How do you even keep track of that?
Right. And a high turnover rate, that's a major red flag. It might mean that you've got some underlying issues. People aren't happy. There's no room to grow. Maybe there are problems with management. It's like nobody wants to be stuck in a game of culinary musical chairs. It's not a good recipe.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. And think about it. All that time and money it takes to constantly hire and train new staff.
It's got to be exhausting.
Yeah.
So how do you create a place where people actually want to work and, build a career?
Well, the article really stresses how important it is to treat your staff like they're your most valuable asset.
Right.
Things like fair pay, giving them chances to learn and grow, just creating a space where people feel respected and appreciated. It can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's about showing your team that they're not just robots,
Yeah.
They're a valuable part of what makes the restaurant successful.
Absolutely. And one KPI that can help you figure out how you're doing in that area is the employee satisfaction score. Just go straight to the source, ask your staff, how happy are you? What are you struggling with? What would make you feel more valued here?
It's like checking the pulse of the restaurant, making sure everyone's feeling good.
Yeah.
Now, this next topic might seem like a bit of a jump, but stay with me here.
Okay.
We've talked about happy customers, we've talked about a happy team, but we can't forget about something that is absolutely essential. Food safety.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Can't forget about that. And the article, it really emphasizes the importance of those health and safety KPIs.
For sure.
Making sure that your restaurant is operating at like the highest possible standard to protect your customers, your staff.
Yeah, everyone.
It's about trust too, right?
Yeah.
Like showing your customers, hey, we take your well-being seriously.
Absolutely. And one KPI that really drives that home, your health inspection score. Think of it like a report card for your restaurant, and it's out there for everybody to see.
Oh yeah, the pressure is on. If you get a bad score, that could be a deal breaker for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Could even shut you down in some cases. This is serious stuff. And the article mentions doing your own self-inspections regularly, like really knowing those food safety rules inside and out, training your staff properly. All that's crucial if you want to ace those inspections.
So it's not just about checking boxes. It's got to be ingrained in everything you do.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Another KPI the article mentions, and people don't always think about this one, is your workplace incident rate.
So we're talking accidents, injuries, anything that happens that could put your employees at risk.
You got it. And if you see a high incident rate, that could be a sign that something's off. Maybe there are some hazards that you need to take care of.
Like a slippery floor, a piece of equipment that's not working right, things that, you can avoid if you're paying attention.
Exactly. And it's not just, the disruption it causes to your business when these things happen. Think about the human cost. Someone gets injured, they're out of work, that impacts their life, their family. It could even lead to lawsuits.
Yeah, it makes you realize that being on top of safety, it's not just the right thing to do, it's good for everyone. Okay, so before we wrap up our deep dive here, we always like to leave our listeners with something to think about.
A little food for thought.
Yeah, exactly. So we've gone through all this data, all these KPIs that can help a restaurant, really thrive, but how do you find that balance between, all of these numbers and that human element, that feeling that makes a restaurant special?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think back to something we talked about earlier. Remember RevPASH?
Yeah.
All about making the most of every seat in your restaurant.
Yeah, like every chair is a little gold mine waiting to be mined.
Right, exactly. So the article didn't come right out and say this, but I think there's another KPI that's just as important, but people don't always talk about it, the wow factor.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's that special something, it's what takes a meal from good to, oh my gosh, I'm telling everybody about this.
Right. Those little unexpected touches, the warmth, that genuine care and attention that you give your customers that makes them feel welcome, appreciated, makes them want to come back.
Like you find a handwritten note in the menu or the chef sends out a little appetizer on the house just because those are the moments that you remember, the ones you tell your friends about.
Exactly. And yeah, you can't exactly measure the wow factor on a spreadsheet, but it's something to keep in mind to foster within your team.
At the end of the day, it's those connections, those experiences that stay with people, that keep them coming back. The data, that's like your roadmap, but the heart and soul, that's what makes a restaurant really special.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we finish up our deep dive on restaurant KPIs, remember, numbers tell a story, but it's up to you to write the ending. Until next time, happy analyzing.